The Marshall Thundering Herd go back-to-back, crowned national champions once again in Season 5, our last episode. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. That video got mad love, and I am ready to keep the story going into Season 6 today with a huge off-season episode. We have a Heisman Trophy winner to replace. If you're new here, I'm Kimbroplays. Thanks for all the love and support. Welcome back to the series. As mentioned, we got it done. 45-28, huge win against the SEC champs Florida in the national championship game, and this made it official. Marshall is not only legit as a real national power, but head coach Jerod Mayo and his 2 national titles has ascended to the best coach in all of college football now that Nick Saban has retired from our series. But the great thing about college football is that you gotta prove you can reset the roster and do it over again. The 4-year outlook says next year we should be about 17th, followed by the best team in college football 2 years in a row after that. So will we actually take a step back, or does the outlook have it all wrong for us next year? It's time to start writing that story today. But before we move forward, I quickly want to look back, because this class of 5th-year players are the last remaining guys from the real-life rosters that were in the game when we started the series. From here on out, the only players in the series the game has created. But the guys leaving this program this season have been legends. And we got to start with number 2, James Fuqua. He's a true senior, headed off to the NFL as the Heisman winner, 2-time champion, a projected first-round pick. He was a 3-year starter in Huntington and developed into a beast. 96 overall, 10,380 career passing yards, 125 passing touchdowns, and ends up right around 66% completion percentage. He epitomized the modern-day dual-threat quarterback who just could dice up defenses with his arm and his legs. And speaking of, he added another 3,000 rushing yards essentially, including 1,200 this year, 42 more touchdowns on the ground, and just was a third-down conversion machine. And hey, for a school with a rich quarterback tradition, Byron Leftwich, Chad Pennington, now James Fuqua has to be brought up in that conversation. Probably the second most important player this past season ended up being Ethan Payne. He had to sit and wait behind Rasheen Ali for 4 seasons of this dynasty. He finally gets a chance as a 5th-year senior and makes more than the most of it. He put together 1,691 yards rushing this year with 11 touchdowns, all while playing alongside college football's best running quarterback. So a bunch of his stats, including some touchdowns, got poached, but he was fantastic for us, closing out games with some tough physical running down the stretch. Josh Hardiman, one of the most important players that turned around this Marshall D. He's thrust into the starting lineup as a redshirt freshman in Season 2 and proceeds to become the top tackler and playmaker on this defense, including winning the Thorpe Award in Season 4 as the nation's best defensive back. He became a solidifying force in this secondary and an all-around weapon. Thank you, Josh. 2 more guys on defense. We'll start with Aiden Hubbard. I checked in on this. Hubbard transferred in with Malcolm Folk during our Season 2 off-season stream here on YouTube. We had Owen Porter back then and a few other older veterans on the roster, but his first full season as a starter came in Season 4 and he broke out for 17 sacks, helping lead us to that first national title. He comes back with even more expectation for a 5th year and wins the Nagurski and Lombardi Awards. 40 sacks, 75 tackles for loss in 3 seasons. His play helped sell all of these blue chip guys that we've been getting commitments from on the recruiting trail. Aiden Hubbard has been a cornerstone for this defense. And you know what? We feel the exact same about his tag team partner in the middle, Rashid Price. The only exception is that we didn't have anyone at defensive tackle for him to learn behind like we had Owen Porter. He had to be the guy from day one as a true freshman on a rebuilding defensive line. He's casually just going to leave Marshall with 51 sacks, 68 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles in his career, and really became an incredible playmaker from the interior defensive line. And he might have had the single best season from a defender I've ever seen in all of my years playing NCAA 14. In Season 4, he had 27 sacks and a sweep of all the defensive awards. Absolutely unreal stuff from Price as he's going to move on to the next level. Last guy we got to highlight, Kevin Hayes. A 79 overall when he arrived. He came in as the guy and lived up to it from the jump. He was perfect with a long of 53 as a freshman. He ends up going 68 of 72 in his career with a long of 57. He never missed an extra point, won the Groza for best kicker twice. I fully expect him to go off and become Justin Tucker in the league. What a beast Kevin Hayes was. Shout out to him. And as we look one last time at this list, guys who played key roles for us like John Bass, backup savior quarterback Cam Fancher, converted safety to multi-year linebacker starter Malcolm Folk, and some other fan favorites like Chancellor Bright, Kerryon Martin, offensive lineman Joe Graham. It really was a great group of leaders that this program had, and it's going to mean we have a lot of holes to fill. And to start that process, we got to figure out who's going to coach the next iteration of the Marshall Thundering Herd. Tons of changes around college football, but interestingly, no big programs making changes. I really wondered if Ryan Day would be out after losing 4 games and another loss to Michigan at Ohio State, but the biggest job opening this cycle was just Minnesota, and we don't have any interest in leaving Marshall, especially for that low-tier Big Ten school. But we are on alert for a few of our coordinators to be hot names after another title run. And sure enough, UCLA snags Kevin Barbay, our offensive coordinator, away from us to be their new head coach. So we have 1 vacancy, and then in a crazy twist, in-state rival West Virginia dumps Doug Belk and hires Mike Houston, our defensive coordinator, to be their new head coach on a 5-year deal. So that's an interesting storyline. We're going to have even more to play for in that game, as one of our own has gone over to the dark side. We end up hiring Aaron Roderick to be our new offensive coordinator. He's going to come over from BYU, where he helped lead them to a 10-3 record last season. He operates a pro-style playbook, so we're going to see what those changes mean to this new version of the offense without Fuqua. We also have to bring in a new defensive coordinator, and we find Durante Jones. He was previously the head coach at OU. It didn't pan out for him there, but it never hurts to add a former head coach to your staff, and his philosophy already fits, as he runs a 4-2-5, and we are a nickel defense by base. So all of this shuffling on our coaching staff was to be expected after you win titles, but it's always tough to teach these guys a new playbook every offseason. Coach Jones comes to us as a level 11. We have 11 spots to upgrade on his skill tree. Not a ton, but as our defensive roster continues to improve, we're less reliant on these coaching upgrades to make our D better, so we can make this 11 work from Coach Jones. Aaron Roderick, on the other hand, this was a nice surprise. He's already a level 20, so we will fill out most of his tree. Unlike the defense, we are breaking in a new quarterback for the first time in 3 years, so we need all the help we can get from these ratings boosts for sure. Final look at some of the best players in college football who are leaving. Here's the underclassmen first, led by Bergstrand from Florida, and then a bunch of 5th-year guys. And it's going to be a weird part of the series as we transition away from real players. We've been using the Dynasty tool every single offseason, and it's designed to more realistically handle the training results. So over time, the overalls for individual players, and thus the rosters themselves, have sort of depressed. So we're not going to see as many 99 overalls as we do now as guys graduate. Something for us to remember as we analyze our roster. But okay, enough of that. Let's look at these draft results, and it was a great showing for Marshall. It might be a program high for guys drafted in one single class. Fuqua's a first-round pick, as he should be. Hardiman goes in the 2nd. John Bass and Ethan Payne go in the 3rd. Really happy for Payne, especially with only 1 season of work. Cam Fancher finds a team to believe in him in the 4th round. Aiden Hubbard, I think, unfairly slips to the 5th, and Kevin Hayes ends up going in the 7th. 7 guys total selected for Marshall. Really, really good for our program. Quickly looking at other teams that have been big storylines. 11 guys get drafted from Clemson. That's insane. They underwhelmed relative to expectations with that much talent this past season. 7 guys get drafted from Florida. We already mentioned Bergstrand left early, but they're also going to lose Del Rio Wilson, the quarterback. This particular Florida team didn't have quite as much talent as they have in previous seasons of the series, so 7 isn't as big of a number as I expected. But geez, look at Miami. 11 guys drafted from them, including 3 first-rounders. No wonder they gave us our biggest scare of the season and forced us to win in dramatic overtime fashion. Miami was no joke. Season 4 title game runners-up, North Carolina has 8 guys selected. Again, 3 first-rounders, including Drake May. We'll see how the Tar Heels rebuild the program. Pat Narduzzi and Pitt have 3 guys picked, with both of their edge rushers going in the 1st round. And to be honest, I see them being our biggest test moving forward in the ACC title games from the other side of the conference. We'll have to watch out for Pitt. All right, officially, the final goodbye to these guys. We got to advance on to National Signing Day. Oh, and of course, no transfers come in for us. I can't wait for that to be a real part of the offseason process in the next NCAA game. 3 big targets left on the board, and we got to make a decision to close out this class. If you haven't followed along all season, we've been elite on the trail. #1 class in the country heading into National Signing Day, 24 commits, and after back-to-back recruiting classes in the top 5, we're going to stack the #1 class on top of that, and the future is insanely bright for us. This class, 2 5-stars, 14 4-stars. It's not just quantity, it has been real quality, and I'm fired up. We've got 3 really top guys in the mix for this final scholarship left. The #1 running back in the country, Leon Wright, #1 middle linebacker, Aaron Sowell, and #5 ranked 5-star wide receiver, George Miller. I gotta be honest, after looking through the commits that we have in this class and the roster, who's coming back, the biggest hole we have is at linebacker. We've been running an undersized safety and Malcolm Folk out there for 2 seasons, just sort of patching up the problem. I feel confident that we'll find a running back or 2 in the next class. We always have a wide variety of wide receiver options, so I really think #1 middle linebacker Aaron Sowell has to get all of these 15,000 points, and we have to full court press him for this final spot. Comment below what you think of this decision. That's who we're going to go with, and I hope it goes our way. And there you have it. We get #1 middle linebacker Aaron Sowell. Leon Wright ends up picking the Buckeyes. Good for him. George Miller picks Notre Dame. You know, to be honest, it sucks to lose those guys and let them walk, but we can't win them all. And when these recruitments dragged into the offseason, we just simply ran out of spots. But hey, let's talk about Sowell. 6'2", 230 pounds, a run-stopping middle linebacker from Florida. He's got 83 tackle, 85 block shed, 87 acceleration. He's going to need to round out pass rush moves, coverage skills, so some other parts of his game. But our defense misses so many tackles, and we just really need dudes on the field who can bring guys to the ground. So I'm really happy to get Sowell. Marshall officially finishes with the top class in the country. Nebraska ends up #2. Texas comes in at #3. But look at the ACC again. Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, us. 4 teams in the top 10 of this recruiting cycle. Man, this conference just never stops. All right, let's dive into some position changes. It's our first chance to see this roster filled in with some of these freshmen added. I'll spare you guys from showing all the little movements that I made, checking out which overalls were best for which positions. We'll just start in the quarterback room. 3 scholarship quarterbacks this year. Remember, this is all pre-training results. Andrew Adams, scheduled to be the new guy, but Roy Morris, that 4-star athlete, he actually slots in to be a nice backup as a true freshman, 75 overall. We only had 2 scholarship running backs in Smith and Clemens coming back, so we have to move 4-star athlete Chris Suggs to running back. 5'11", 221 pounds, 94 speed. That'll work for me. We also needed to slide over 5-star athlete Chris White. He's actually slightly worse at running back than Suggs, but with these 4 guys, I feel really comfortable about the position heading into next year, especially if Casey Smith takes that next step to be the starter. It's a great freshman wide receiver class. 4 veterans are going to lead this group, but look at 4-star Alex Smith. He comes in as a +4, 80 overall. 5-star Isaiah Seward is a 79 overall. Both of those guys are studs. And Joseph Davis is really solid too. 6'3", 207 pounds. He's a 76 overall 4-star. These 3 guys underline exactly why we did not need to go after George Miller on signing day. Love our future at wide receiver. A few new faces at left tackle. Freshman All-American Derek Marcus is the best young tackle in college football, so we definitely need some guys ready to go to replace him. We're going to put both of our 4-star top 10 tackles in the class, Joseph and Wade. We're going to start them off on the left side at tackle. I expect both of those guys to develop into starting caliber offensive linemen at some point in their careers. 78 overall JUCO Ryan Newell. He comes in this class at left guard. Thomas Webb is a great one already, our starter, so Newell is likely to get the red shirt, but then be ready to take over if Webb bolts for the NFL. Last change along the offensive line, JUCO junior 79 overall Donnie Landry comes in and actually might be our best option at right tackle. I like all these additions across the line. We really did well in recruiting. Alston is going to join a great room of young left ends on defense. Davis and Williams were both 4-stars last year, and Alston might have a chance to redshirt and develop a little bit. Jermaine Johnson, of course, our top guy returning, but Daniel Dodd is going to be really good. He's a 4-star gem, comes in 81 overall, and there's a good chance he gets into the rotation in front of Barry. An unreal number of defensive tackles. We lose Rashid Price, but we have a ton of options to replace him. Tyrone Hooper is going to be a JUCO coming over in this class. He's going to start at an 80 overall, and before the training results, he's the best guy in this room. I'm really high on true freshman Will Taylor. He's going to be a beast. 78 overall, 4-star gym. We might stash him if Paul Stratton, our defensive tackle number 2 from last year, takes another step forward. I'm fired up to see some depth and talent at linebacker finally for Marshall. 4-star Travis Rogers looks awesome. 79 overall to start, but honestly, it's last year's 4-star Matt Sullivan who could take a step and be a starter. And here he is, Aaron Sowell, currently leading the middle linebackers. 78 overall before all of the veterans get trained. This could still be Ryan Young's position. He was an All-American breakout tackle machine last year for us as a sophomore. Either way, I think the level and skill of linebacker has really improved across the board. Loving our cornerbacks. We needed this so badly as Watkins, Love, and Sanders are all going to be gone next year, as well as Scott Ward. So we end up adding 2 good JUCO players in Charles Smith and Jason Nobles. We're going to give them both a red shirt, get them ready to go to be 2-year starters the next 2 years. Also, number 5 corner in the class, 4-star John Brown, will also be in the mix. We still need to recruit this position pretty heavily, bring in some more true freshmen, but I like where the cornerback room is at. Kenneth Daniels is that dude, but he's going into his true junior season, and I'm sure he'll be thinking about the NFL next year. That makes inking true freshman 4-star gym athlete RJ Thompson so important to our future. We're going to bring him into the safety room. He can sit this year and be ready to go whenever Daniels leaves. Really excited about Thompson. And it's my favorite part. Here we go. Positions are set. Let's see how these veterans progress after another championship season. We're going to be using this dynasty tool again, and here is how they developed. And well, at first glance, I see a lot of green, which is good. We are officially a 6-star program, 91 overall, 95 on offense, 87 on defense, which is a little surprising with the big question mark at quarterback. D- academics is still dragging us down pretty good, but B in facilities has improved. B in pro potential after a good draft class is also much better. Our head coach is 100 rated, as Coach Mayo is a baller. 69 for our new offensive coordinator, 50 for our defensive coordinator. And let's switch back over to the game, get a better look at these numbers. We talked about it a little bit ago. These overalls are going to be suppressed with the tool in effect, which is okay. It's going to be like that across the board for everybody. It's probably a little more realistic than a bunch of 99s as seniors, but it means that 90 overall is our best player, and we've got 4 of them: Justice, Daniels, Watkins, and Marcus. And holy, +6 for Watkins, +8 for Marcus. That's super exciting. This is the big one. Let's look at quarterback. Andrew Adams with the +5. That's a really great offseason for him and for us. He's up to an 81 overall, and it's going to be a big adjustment coming from 96 overall Fuqua. We're going to have to adjust our play style a little bit, but I'm still really high on Adams. 85 speed, 91 agility, 87 throw power, 81 throw accuracy. Our offense might not be as explosive as when you had the Heisman winner leading it, but I think Adams is still going to help us move the ball. Really solid work for him this offseason. Casey Smith, really good stuff, a +4. Gets a little bit faster. Jeff Clemens, he gets a +3. Finally a good offseason for him. He was a former top recruit. He has just never panned out in these training results, but Smith and his speed should be a really great help to Adams. Casey improved everywhere, but 66 carrying rating is a concern. We'll have to keep an eye out and make sure he protects the football all season. Clemens will be there if he can't hold it down, but it's a really big change coming from Rasheen Ali and Ethan Payne's productivity. Wilson and Bishop, both decent off seasons. We don't use fullback pretty much ever, but both seniors are 77 overalls, which is fine down around the goal line. Wide receiver, a good, not great off season. +3 for Chambers and Matthews. They're both into the upper 80s now. Lou Walker only gets a +1. Pretty disappointed by that, but that news is offset by Chandler Taylor's +4, which is great. So these top 4 guys should be able to get it done for us this year. I think the 99 acceleration and 99 route running and only 85 speed make me think that Tommy Chambers should be our starting slot guy. So we may have to shuffle around the group a little bit, but I think they're going to be fine. Tight end, hello Cedric Britt. My goodness, +9 up to an 80 overall after he flashes a ton as a true freshman last season. The converted wide receiver now tight end, pairs really well with Brennan Armstrong, who had a good offseason, which is really nice. He bounces back after not seeing any last year. He's obviously the guy, and I see a lot of 2 tight end sets with this new playbook. I'm happy with how this group is developing. Derek Marcus, my goodness, +8 up to a 90 overall. That's incredible for the former 3-star gem out of Michigan. In the regular version of NCAA 14, you don't see bumps like this. So I really like how the Dynasty tool recognizes a player like Marcus. He's a true freshman All-American after his first season. He comes in, dominates, plays great, and then gets rewarded with a huge ratings bump like this. I think that can happen in real life. I need to check. He's likely one of the best left tackles in all of college football now. Solid work by Webb and Minor. Webb's up 3 to an 85. That's awesome for the true junior who's going to start for the 3rd straight season. Webb is an elite pass blocker, and he and Marcus on the left side should keep Adams clean all season. And Minor's boost actually makes me feel a little bit better in case of injury. We will be breaking in a new starting center. It's former 4-star Mike Thomas, who redshirted last season. He's going to come into the starting lineup as an 83 overall after a solid little +3. We definitely can work with it. He's a better run blocker at this stage in his career than a pass blocker, but he'll be helped out by probably the best combo of guards next to him in all of college football. You got 85 Thomas Webb on the left side, 90 overall +4 Brian Justice on the right side, who has become one of the nation's best guards. Absolutely a candidate to be a 3-and-done player. 88 pass block, 91 run block, 89 impact block. He's just elite. Patrick Fagan is his backup, also has a nice boost as a redshirt freshman. Another offseason for him next year, and he could find himself in the upper 80s as a first-time starter. This offensive line is looking really incredible. The only spot we still need to figure out is right tackle. Burns and Jones get some decent work in the offseason. Burns is up to a 78 overall after a +3. And remember, JUCO Donnie Landry, he's going to be a junior at 79 overall. So I expect the battle for starter to continue into the preseason, maybe the first few games, as we figure out if Burns or Landry is playing better. A really big surprise at left end. Ron Davis picked up a few sacks as a true freshman last year. He played at the end of games in garbage time, but it's Leon Williams, his former 4-star counterpart from the same class. He took a red shirt and ends up getting a huge boost. +5 up to an 81 for Williams. He's now technically better than Davis. I just assumed Davis was going to be the guy to take over for Aiden Hubbard, but now Williams is making this really, really tough. He's in the mix. That battle will also go into the season. It's slightly underwhelming for the right end group. Jermaine Johnson gets an okay +3. He's now up to an 85, and the true junior has been really good. He's reaped all the benefits from the attention that Aiden Hubbard and Price would get, but now he's got to go out there and be the guy. Barry, Clark, and Wallace don't really take any steps. And remember, Daniel Dodd at 81 overall, the gym freshman, is the future anyway, so I'm not really worried about those guys because they're probably never going to see the field. Pretty good work by the defensive tackles, to be honest. Stratton gets a nice +3, Jordan with a really nice +5, and Simmons with a really nice +6. I think this result for Stratton and Jordan means that true freshman Will Taylor isn't going to be needed off the bat. We'll probably give him a red shirt and save some eligibility. Nice job by the left side of the linebackers. Matt Sullivan says he's ready for a real role. +4 up to a 79. +4 for special teams ace and former transfer Andrew Jackson. And it tells me that Travis Rogers, the true freshman, might be able to sit for a season before he gets into the mix, which would be great for the long-term health of this group. And even more good news, Ryan Young gets a nice little +3. He's up to a 76, coming out of nowhere last year to become an impact player. And to tell you the truth, 6'6", 233, the true junior has an incredible combination of size and speed, and I love getting him onto the field. Smith and Bain also have nice boosts, but I think it's really going to be 78 overall, #1 ranked middle linebacker Aaron Sowell, who's got to play. I see Sullivan, Young, and Sowell being our 3 main linebackers in the rotation, while we let Rogers, the 4-star freshman, sit. Alexander and James get a little boost. Alexander's up to a 74 as a redshirt junior. He's going to help on special teams. He might have a chance to be in the mix with another year of development. What a dramatic shakeup at cornerback. Wow. We already knew from the start that David Watkins finally took the big steps that we've been expecting from our best corner the last 2 years. He gets a +6 to a 90 overall, but look at Scott Ward. The 5th-year senior is a late bloomer, +5, and is now in serious consideration to fight with Eric Love and Mario Sanders to be the starter opposite of Watkins. The curious saga of Love and Sanders continues. Both guys with a measly +1 as they're entering their true senior seasons, and it's weird. It's not like they've been bad, and both guys have made made plays for us. They've played a ton of football. So it's really weird that the tool has just plateaued their development like this. Either way, shout out to Scott Ward, and do not sleep on Joe Montgomery either. +5 up to a 79. He's 6'1", 186, 93 speed. I would love to see him be in the mix to be the starter next year, as all 4 of these other guys are going to be gone. The drama at corner is real. Kenneth Daniels continues to be amazing. +5 up to a 90 overall for the speedy cover safety. 5'9", 171, but he is the fastest player on the team with 96 speed. He'll be a starter again this year, and the true junior could absolutely look to go to the league. Jenkins gets a small +2, and it really sets it up for RJ Thompson to be the next guy in line after next season. Nice work by the strong safeties. +4 for Brown, +5 for Stewart. Corey Brown looks ready for his chance to be the starter in year 2. He played sparingly as the 3rd safety last year in some sub packages, but now we need him to be really solid on the back end. And look at this, if things get really crazy on offense, Corey Brown came in as an athlete, and he actually has 92 throw power, which is the highest on the team. You never know, we may use him. And unfortunately, it's the worst news for last. Definitely the biggest disappointment on the team is a -5 regression for Manny Seymour. Not what you want to see as you're trying to replace the best kicker in school history. I'm not sure what happened here with the Dynasty tool. They just decided that Seymour needed to take this hit, but it's going to add an interesting storyline to this season, as we might have to go for it on 4th down a lot more with this reduced range. A bit of a bummer. Thompson's back as our punter, +3 up to a 75. And because of Seymour, he has the strongest leg on the team, so he's probably going to have to handle kickoff duties. Special teams might really be a question mark for us as the 2-time defending champions. But that's it. This is the team for this year. Overall, it was a really solid offseason for this group. Lots of great development. We're going to end up putting a pretty good roster around our brand new quarterback, Andrew Adams, but I think we're missing that elite playmaker on offense and that dominant player in the front 7 of the defense. Let's keep advancing. 11 guys that we've got to cut. So let's start trimming down this roster. Randomly, there's a 44 overall quarterback, Jeremy Mills, get out of here. Another walk-on, the game added. Dixon, the 40 overall running back, get out of here. A lot happening at defensive tackle. We've got way too many bodies. Now that the training results have come in, we can make some decisions. Hodges had a horrible offseason in training. He's the odd man out. He gets cut. Freshman Kevin Snyder can also go after we've added Taylor and Sanders in the same class. Next, Josh Young at linebacker. I think we just can find somebody in the next cycle to be a better player, and we need to make the room. At least 2 more full years of Corey Brown. Gavin Walker is not going to surprise Stewart after he saw a nice boost. Walker's going to go. We don't even need 1 fullback, let alone 2. The game makes us keep 1. They're basically the same player, so let's keep Bishop because he's 15 pounds heavier. Got to find 4 more to cut. I don't see a world where Williams at 65 overall ever sees the field. Williams is going to go, and we'll keep 3 tight ends. With Landry and Burns scheduled to battle it out for starting right tackle, we don't have a need for a 5th-year 3rd stringer. Jones is going to get cut. Originally, I wanted to see if we could make it work with converted middle linebacker Aaron Wallace, but the way we've been recruiting at defensive end with all these 4 stars the last 3 cycles, we got to let him go. For the last cut, I realized we still had 1 too many defensive tackles, and as I looked through the ages and the ratings, Josh McIntosh stood out as a guy who didn't really have a future here. So he's our final cut, and the roster's trimmed down. No changes to the conferences, but here's a quick refresher on where we stand heading into year 6 with some of them. Marshall is in the ACC, looking to defend the conference title in its 2nd season. 5 ranked teams in the top 25, 4 of them in the top 10. I hate it here. The Big Ten has shifted dramatically, but it's still a pretty strong conference. 5 teams are ranked, while USC and UCLA are still looking to make their impact after moving over, and it's Northwestern and Nebraska. They're the good teams, and Ohio State is not. It's very strange in the Big Ten. This is what's left of the Pac-12, so Oregon and Washington and others have not left yet, so the Pac-12 is on its last leg, but it still has 3 ranked teams. Florida has won 3 consecutive SEC titles, and Alabama just went 7-6 last year. Times are strange down there, but Georgia, number 2 in the country, should very much be in the mix this year, and Texas just had the number 3 recruiting class in the country. 5 ranked teams. We'll see if someone other than Florida can break through. Time to advance to the preseason and take a look at this custom schedule for season 6, and boy, it's a good one. I've gotten some heat from the fans earlier in the series for playing a soft schedule. Not this time. We're going to start off with a neutral site banger in week 2 against number 11 Texas A&M. Then we come right back and head to the big house to play number 10 Michigan. This is the first time we're going to see the Wolverines in the series. Then we come home to start conference play against Florida State, so there are no cupcakes to get into the flow of the season. Then we have our bye week, and then of course a very talented Miami team coming to Huntington for the first time. Boston College, then on the road at the biggest game on our calendar in Death Valley versus number 4 Clemson. We should absolutely know everything about our team by week 8, as we will have faced 4 ranked teams in 6 games. Back half of the schedule calms down slightly. At Syracuse, at rival West Virginia, then our third and final non-conference game against number 15 Notre Dame, followed by number 20 NC State the week after that. Then the season wraps up like it did last year with Wake Forest and Louisville, and that's it. A+ strength to schedule, new first-time starter at quarterback. Honestly, this might be our toughest test of the entire series. It's going to be a gauntlet. Let's quickly go through some redshirting. We don't need both Suggs and White to burn a year of eligibility, so White's going to sit in year 1. A real luxury when multiple freshmen in the 80s are basically not needed. Scott, Seward, and Davis all get to sit. Joseph and Wade, the true freshman tackles, both get to sit and develop. Newell, as we mentioned, the JUCO transfer, he's going to sit. He's likely going to be the guy next year. Jarrell Alston gets to redshirt and develop. Williams and Davis will battle it out. Barry and Clark are good enough, and the loser of the Williams-Davis battle on the other side, I think, makes it okay for Daniel Dodd to redshirt. This was a tough decision for me because he's so good. We can always pull the redshirt if we need him, but I think we're going to start him out redshirted. Stratton and Jordan are having great off seasons. It means Sanders and Taylor get a chance to sit. I feel really good about that. This might be unpopular, and I'm excited for him, but we're going to sit Rodgers in year 1. Sullivan took a nice leap forward, so let's let Travis develop. Obviously, Mann's going to get a red shirt as well. And of course, that means we need Sowell if Rodgers is going to sit. So Aaron is going to play as a true freshman. Let's go. All 3 of the new corners need to sit. Smith, Brown, and Nobles. That extra year of eligibility is going to be so key with the top 4 guys leaving next season. Lastly, RJ gets to sit for year 1. He's going to gear up to take over for Daniels when he leaves for the league. And that's it. Nobody else. Checking in on the All-American lists. Mostly, I just want to see the overalls for the players and who makes the lists from teams on our schedule. Lauren Gooden at 81 overall is the first team All-American quarterback. That's unreal. He smoked us last season, and he continues to make Syracuse a much more dangerous team than you would expect. Brennan Armstrong is TE1 in college football. He is as good as it gets. We love to see it. Jermaine Johnson makes the first team. Not much of a surprise. He finished the season as an All-American. High expectations for him. Ryan Young, same thing. Finished last year as an All-American, and Eric Love also gets on the first team. So 2 of our more productive defenders who are also returning starters, they're getting some love. And then for the second team, we see Brian Justice make this list. To be honest, that's probably a snub because he is amazing. He should have been on the first team. Mario Sanders makes it onto the second team, but somehow David Watkins is missing. 90 overall, he's been our best corner for 2 seasons in a row. This is pretty suspect from the preseason voters. Let's look at the preseason polls, and they have decided in a split vote that North Carolina deserves the number 1 spot. Marshall's number 2, Georgia number 3, Clemson number 4, Florida number 5, and Pittsburgh number 6. So a bunch of teams that we've played recently in the series are all in the top 6. It's just crazy competitive right now. But yes, Marshall's going to start as the number 2 team in the country. Having just gone through this roster, we all sort of have a feel for what the needs are, but officially in this cycle, we have to ink a fullback on offense and probably 1 or 2 running backs, at least 1 tight end, and a few guys across the offensive line. Defensively, we don't have anything required, but we're absolutely going to need a few more cornerbacks, and I would say at least 1 safety in this class, probably also a kicker. Here are our program grades going into this recruiting cycle. We have churned out 3 straight top 5 classes, and the letter grades continue to improve. A+ for coach prestige, conference prestige, championship contender, and stadium atmosphere. Those are some of the biggest ones with recruits, so I'm happy about about that. We still need to improve our academics and campus lifestyle, but everything else we can work with for sure. So let's take a look at who we're targeting in the class. I've already done a little bit of scouting and built out the big board as we sort this list by who has us first, and boom, there is our first one for season 6. It's Scott Carpenter, a 4-star, number 7 defensive tackle in the class, 6'2", 285 out of Louisiana. He's a -1 after we do our scouting, down to a 72, but I love how well-rounded he is. He just needs a little time to develop and strengthen his play. I definitely see him in that Paul Stratton defensive tackle 2 role someday. As we keep looking, it was another hit. Boom, 4-star, number 11 athlete in the country, Nick Booker. He's number 2 for this class, 6'1", 174 from Illinois, 77 overall, 94 speed. He could play wide receiver, but I actually like him more as a cornerback. 83 man coverage, 84 zone, 77 press. With that length and that speed, he looks like a solid outside corner, very similar to David Watkins. They actually might be the exact same size and measurements. This is really big to get a guy like this early in the class to make sure that we're going to have some new fresh corners coming in. Then the very next guy's going to hit too. Marcus Robinson, who had us tied with North Carolina in his recruitment, is apparently ready to join. The number 6 ranked free safety, 6', 199. And the good news is I actually see him being better at strong safety, 76 overall with 93 speed, 84 tackle, and 75 hit power on day 1. He's a torpedo, and I see a faster, more athletic Josh Hardiman in his future. Robinson could be a steal for us in a few years. As we dug into the big board a little further, we find Drew Harris, 6'3", 237, 4-star, the number 14 defensive end from Florida. He's a 74 overall. The game tells us he's a run stopper skill set, and obviously I agree. Solid finesse move, 81 block shed, solid tackle, and 85 pursuit. But those tackle and block shedding ratings are great. And then again, the very next player we take a look at hits. Mark Jones becomes our 5th commit already. 6'5", 240, another run-stopping defensive end. This time the number 16 player at his position, another 4-star. He's a bit more of a project than Harris. His rush moves are not as good as Harris, but he's still a really great tackler and could be a good rotation guy down the line in his career. So before we even play a game in season 6, we've got 5 verbal commits from 5 4-star prospects. That is an incredible start as we look to go back-to-back as the top recruiting class in the country, and we've got some other even bigger names on the board. We'll take a look at them in future episodes, but how about that start right there? My goodness. And that is the perfect place to leave this long but really fun off-season episode. We lose our best player of the series, but the team is very balanced, and I'm excited to see what Andrew Adams can do for us as the new quarterback 1. Texas A&M in the neutral site banger to start the season is on deck for the next episode. Oh, and one more thing before I leave. I saved the biggest news until the end of the episode. Breaking news, season 6 is going to be the debut of the expanded college football playoff. Just like in real life, we are moving to a 12-team playoff here in the series, and it's going to be chaos. I cannot wait. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching this series and all of the love and support on these episodes. You guys have been going crazy. I love y'all. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Peace.